Welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games. This is my set review for set 5. I'm going to go through each of the factions and look at all the cards. Uh, to start with, I'd like to say that set 5 I feel like has done a really good job of introducing new cool mechanics without having these sort of over-the-top, just broken cards that instantly are obviously going to dominate the metagame. Now, I don't want to say that there isn't a card like that in the set, and there very well may be in the end, but there's nothing that's just completely blinking red obvious like this is now dictating every single deck, and every deck has to be built to beat this deck. We haven't got to that point. So I feel like this may in fact be the best design set they've had yet. I'm pretty impressed with the work that they've done. And I also think there were a lot of really important card changes that were done going into the set. So for instance, there are a whole slew of cards that now only trigger off playing from hand, like Iron Mine Acolyte, Master of Elements. These are really important because you have new cards that are like Immortal Echoes that give you more control over your dead pile, and so it would be really dangerous to be able to loop cards like Master of Elements for a spell deck. I believe that was one of the first things they looked at. Hinterland Watchman gets his stats increased, which is interesting. It's really interesting because he's increased out of range of Patriarch. So he was 3 attack, 5 attack, 4 on level 2. Now he's 4 and 7. So is that actually a buff? Not a buff. Patriarch's not quite as popular, so I think it's probably a buff. Korok gets a small buff. Esperian Scarab is now a robot, which is kind of a big deal. We have War Tinker, gives us more robots. One of my favorite changes is Steel Scale Dragon. Steel Scale Dragon was a beast and a bomb before, even more so now, getting a buff across the board. And if we get time, I'll show you my Steel Scale Dragon deck that I have with the Smolder Dragon. Oh, I like it quite a bit, actually. Then we have Ironbeard actually gets a buff. Is he playable? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. And probably most importantly, Bramblewood Tracker gets a serious nerf. His stats are all at the same level 1, slightly lower level 2, but it's really level 3. He's only at 12-15 now, which is quite manageable. Because he has consistent, the big problem is you're going to hit that level 3. So the level 3 was just too big of a body. But let's move into the cards themselves. And so I just got done saying how I was really impressed. There's nothing overtly busted in this deck or in this set. And here we go, card 1. I kind of think this card is busted. Shardplate Behemoth. This is going to be a 3 of in every Utara deck, and a lot of decks, when you're thinking of like, what's the other faction I want? You're probably going to put in Utara just to have him. He's the greatest underdrop we have at 10-10 with virtually no drawback. If you're using it as an underdrop, he's going to take out a lot of higher level things that have been slightly wounded. Yes, when he gets wounded, he's not as good. Could run Heart Tree. I don't know. We're going to see like a Heart Tree Behemoth Thundersword deck pop up somewhere. That could be interesting. And his level 3 is enormous. His level 2 is not amazing, but his level 1 is great, and his level 3 is great. And you're mostly going to use him as an underdrop, I think. Right. Ancestral Echoes is one of these new cards I really like that lets the effect stretch over multiple turns. I think they're really hard to balance, and I'm not sure how useful this card is going to be at just 1 attack, 2 health, and then 2/4 over 2 turns. That's pretty good if you can get some resilient guys out there. It does give your opponent that urgency after that first turn of I better clear some stuff out. But this could be really good in a grow wide deck. I mean, you can run this in addition to like a Roar, but you're trading off a 1 play to get 2 turns of full, almost a full Roar twice. It's pretty good. I have a feeling we'll see this in a lot of grow wide decks. What I like about the card is it seems like it's effective, but it's not over the top. Snowdrift Alpha. I don't really know what to think of this. Do I really want a card that I can activate to put a hunting pack into one of my lanes? I don't know. I mean, its stats are reflective of an underdrop that you're using to trade stuff. It doesn't have a lot of health, but it has a lot of attack. It's a good trading card. But a card that activates is not a card you want to use for trading. So I'm not entirely sure what to say about the card. And hunting pack pretty much sucks. So I don't know. I really don't know what to say. I haven't tried the card a lot. I'm sure in draft it'll be amazing because you can fill the board repetitively. But in constructed, I don't know. I'm going to give a wait and see on that card. I tend to say it's probably not constructed playable, but who knows? It might be. This is another whole series of cards which I really like, the ambush mechanic. It's an opportunity to actually play cards on your turn, almost like traps in Hearthstone, only even more cleverly made. I mean, traps in Hearthstone are kind of annoying because you're still not playing on your opponent's turn. Like, they know there's a trap there. Once the metagame gets situated, they know what you have in what trap that is. Whereas here, you don't even know if your opponent is running this, especially something like the Aloyan Golem. He only jumps in if your opponent moves the guys on their turn. And so it's really tricky. Like, are you running this? You know, how popular is move? The whole ambush mechanic itself is really cool, but each individual one is really going to depend on the metagame. I was playing a deck the other night that had move in it, and someone had this guy move a creature over, boom, the golem jumps in, he's a giant body, it completely wrecked me, and then after that, every time you're running a move deck, right? And you're like, oh man, do I move this guy and risk him having the golem? So they're going to be really interesting in the metagame as a way to solve various issues. You know, if move decks become popular, you're going to see this guy. If you get other cards in there that become popular, then they're going to get used. So I'm certainly interested in how this card is going to work out. All right, Killer Bee is really cool. This might be my favorite card for coolness wise. Like, you poison your opponent. So let's say you can find a way to stall a game out, and you get a little poison on level 1, you get a little on 2. That could be a lot of poison. If you just hit them with 2 Killer Bees on level 1 and 2 on level 2, that's a ton of poison over the length of the game. And maybe you're playing like Stasis Warden or something. You're just stalling the game out to a crawl. Well, they slowly die from poison. I kind of doubt we're going to see this as a major constructed viable card. I hope not, to be honest. I don't think it would be very fun. But as a not viable card, it's a really cool card because you'll be able to build some decks around it, surprise some people, have some fun with it. I think it's a cool, fun card as long as it's not overpowerful. And I don't think it is. Another card here, another cycle that they made that I really think is cool is this idea of multi-use cards. I really like this a lot. Toxic Boon is the Utara version. So you can either give an opponent poison, a character, or you can buff your own guy. I really, really like this idea that you get to decide, like, which way do I want to go here? Do I need the buff? Do I need the poison? I like these flexible cards. I feel like they give, you know, the better player more options to really be able to outthink his opponent and try to figure out a way to best take advantage of the situation. So I'm not entirely sure that this card is strong enough. I mean, we weren't really seeing other cards that did similar. We weren't seeing cards that did similar effects in the constructed metagame. We weren't seeing poison cards, and we weren't seeing single creature buffs that were weak. But potentially a card that could be as flexible as this might make it into the metagame. I don't really know. I tend to think it probably does not make it into the metagame for the constructed game, but it's a cool idea. I really like the design space a lot. Torrent Soldier. I mean, he seems like garbage to me. You get a free spell. That's cool. I mean, if you're willing to subject yourself to a 4/6 level 1 just to get a mediocre level 2 body and a mediocre level 3 body to get a free poison spell, your deck really has to be based around that spell, and it has to be able to survive his terrible level 1. I don't think he's constructed playable in any way. Now, I could be wrong. If there's a poison deck that becomes viable, which, you know, we're getting more and more and more poison. So are we reaching that threshold where suddenly poison flips from being terrible to amazing? I don't think so. I mean, Life Gain only did that when they took, like, Life Gain itself was kind of crappy, and then they're like, completely broken card that works off Life Gain. And then, yes, then it becomes viable. And so the same things with poison. If they get an amazing creature to go with it, then sure, but I really don't think it's viable. Dendrify is probably the most interesting card in the whole set. It's it's soft level gated removal, which I think is really needed, but it's really punishing. You have to give them a 6/6 tree. So, like, if you can hit a giant Wagyu, hey, that was the best deal ever. But there just doesn't seem like a lot of times where you're going to be able to use this. There's not a ton of creatures I can think of like, yes, it's worth it for me to take a whole turn just to give them a 6/6. But I could definitely see it being used, as a 1-of or a 2-of even. It could be, used against, you wouldn't use it level 1. If they find that giant, like a dragon on 2.1, you can be like, no, it's a tree now. And I think that would be pretty useful. I think it would be way more useful if they hadn't changed Hermit. So Hermit was another one of the big changes. He no longer works with spells. This card would be amazing with Hermit without a Hermit type effect to be able to find it and fish it. I don't know. We're going to have to see if the metagame... It's great to have in the metagame because the metagame has like this cap on it now. It's really hard to devolve into just giant dudes because Dendrify lurks in the shadows, kind of like Botanimate did. But Botanamate's too hard because you have to level it. So I feel like Dendrify certainly has a place, but it will be it'll be interesting to see where it shakes out. And then, of course, as Outrageous is saying here, you can use it on your own guys. So tree decks, it's one more tool. Again, is that enough to push a Nuwada tree deck to the forefront? I tend to think probably not, but we'll see. Okay, where are we here? Ursine Strength. This is another whole new series of cards. Set 5 is full of this new design space, which I think is really fantastic. I think it's probably not a good card, but still I like the design space. Level 1 is pretty weak. If you're using it on rank, it's pretty much awful. If you're using it under-leveled, it's okay. Like 5/5 is pretty good. It's almost a Listening Shard. But it only works under level. Listening Shard is so good when you can use it on level 1 and buff that guy so that it can't be killed by cards of its level. A 5/5 buff on level 2 isn't quite as powerful because other level 2s will probably be able to take it down. But it does become pretty big. Like if you get it to level 3 somehow, I mean, it's an 11/11 buff on a single guy. That's pretty good. Unlike Listening Shard, it doesn't blow up when you use it. You actually levels. So this could actually see play in a deck that's trying to grow one giant guy. And of course, draft is a whole different ball game. I could easily see it being good in draft, but we're looking really just at constructed for this particular set review. Torgmai Mender. So basically, he comes in, he gives a creature free health. Now, the problem is his body's really bad, and I haven't seen any constructed metagames where giving creatures a little bit more health has ever been great. Heart Tree in AU was decent for a while because you could buff Heart Tree first of all with stuff like Patriarch, and Patriarch was really, really strong at the time, and it was healing targeted guys like Thunder Swords to make them giant, and it's healing the whole board, whereas this guy is just coming in and hitting a guy for a fairly small amount of health. I just don't see this being a constructed viable card unless there's a specific deck that can be built around it. You know what? Actually, it's or player. So maybe it fits in a Wagyu deck. I'm still not sure if it's in a Wagyu deck because you have better cards, I think, that do that function. I mean, if you just want more cards to do that function, that could be good. But I think I'd rather run the Dryad rather than this card. Better body, almost the same amount of health. A Stag. This is more flexible than the Stag, but the Stag has a slightly better body. So, I don't know. He is good with Behemoth. That's a good point. But so is any other heal card. And so then it's the question of maybe it's better than a Stag because it's more flexible and you can hit your Wagyu or your face depending on what you need. I guess that doesn't work because if you're hitting, you would hit your face regardless to bring Wagyu up. So I don't know. Maybe you have in your Wagyu deck you have Thunder Sword and it becomes more flexible. I don't know. But it might have a spot in that regard. But overall, yeah, it's a little bit meh. This is one of my favorite cards. And another new design space. It only has 2 levels. Because you know what? You're just using this guy as an underdrop. It's like a Deep Branch Prowler that levels once really well and then maxes out. So it's good in like a big dumb animals deck. It's good in a deck where you want underlevel stuff. The problem is they put Shardplate Behemoth in the same faction. So it's like you're going to run Shardplate Behemoth over this card. This card would have been really good if there was no Shard Plate Behemoth. So it's kind of a problem where it's only good if you need 4 to 6 of an underdrop, which oftentimes you do if you're not going to use like a Shard Plate guy to actually buff your guys as an underdrop. So I love the card. I don't think it's going to see much play outside of like big dumb animals, but that's only because Shard Plate Behemoth is so good. All right, last Utara card is Cavern Serpent. This is another really cool design space where when he's on the field, each opponent gets poison until they're taking damage. Again, it seems kind of irrelevant, like a tiny level 1 body, just awful. Not a good level 3 body, a so-so level 2 body, and gets a little poison. Like, I love the design mechanic. I think the card's probably awful. Now, having said that, again, there are mechanics in the game to really slow the game down. Like if you played him with the Killer Bee, with now I can't remember his name, even though I said it before. The Aloyan card that locks the board down. Potentially there's something there. I don't think so, but we're talking potentially. Oh, I didn't even realize Swammoth Ancient was a dinosaur. He doesn't look like a dinosaur, but I guess he is. Yeah, so that's another thing. So maybe in a dinosaur deck, which has never been good yet, he would be good. So maybe we'll get a good dinosaur deck. That would be cool. So here's one of my favorite cards. Let's move on to Tempies. Smolder Scale Dragon. This is a really cool card. All right, so his level 3 is pretty darn good. A 15/30, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. He does 5 damage to every creature your opponent controls. So he's not wiping the board, but he's hitting the board pretty hard. And his level 1 is much like a Scorchmane, only he does the damage to everyone. And then his level 2, unfortunately, is still tiny and small, but he deals damage too. I really kind of wish it was 3. I feel like the level 2 is what holds this guy back. Having no attack really on level 2 also is really hard. Like the only cards that have made that work, like Krogius is terrible. He just doesn't work because of it. And Iron Maiden is good only because she basically auto wins the game. Now, why I love this guy. Frozen Solid and this guy go together perfectly. Glacius and this guy go together perfectly. So I have a deck built where I run Hermit, and I have Glacius and him, and Brimstone Tyrant, and so you're able to do just massive amounts of just global damage constantly to the field, getting you to level 3. And if you're running Hermit and you're running global damage, why not make it Poke the Bear and put the bear in there and poke him and wake him up? So you got all kinds of interesting combos with him. I think there's going to be an archetype based solely around him that's really, really strong. And again, it may end up having Stasis Warden in it as a way to lock down the board. Whenever I think of like, how can I lock down the board and just do damage to everyone, Stasis Warden always comes to mind. But with or without Stasis Warden, I feel like there's going to be something with Smolder Scale. And in that archetype, if it's slow enough, if it locks down the board, we might have something like Draconic Echoes make its way in. Draconic Echoes is not a very good card. At the end of the turn, deal 1 to 10 damage to an opponent. Okay, so you get that twice. The next one is 1 to 20. If it was 10 to 20, the card would be bonkers, but still 1 to 20. And then level 3 is 1 to 20 every turn. So it's going to be a really hard card. Like this card is a problem because it's either going to be amazing in the metagame or garbage. Like I can't really imagine that much in between. To me, it seems like garbage right now. But if a deck can come around that can lock down this board somehow, and then echoes, and you're just always looping echoes, that could be really, really strong. The question is, can it be a topper for like an aggro Tempies deck? And I don't think so. I don't think it's enough damage bursty. I think it's more of sustained damage, so it doesn't go that well with aggro. I think it goes more with a longer game, going to level 3, and really trying to sustain and do damage bit by bit by bit. I have a feeling it's not good, but it has promise. It really has promise. All right, Xerox, on Kibler's stream, he said that this guy used to have mobility. If this guy had mobility, he would have been freaking amazing. He would have been a lasher with mobility. That's pretty good. I mean, you can already give him mobility a lot of ways with Windweaver and all kinds of different shenanigans. And he grows. But he grows, you know, pretty slowly on level 1. Level 2, though, not too bad. 2 guys die in a turn. Now he's an 8-11. That's not bad for a level 2 that also destroys stuff. I'm thinking he could actually be really good. Like, you put him in, I don't even know the deck yet, but maybe with Windweaver, that's like the obvious solution. Maybe even with Ator to be able to just move him over, do some damage right away. The problem is he comes in and he does such a small amount of attack, small amount of damage that first turn. So his downside is that he has to come in, he has to live, and then he has to pick up mobility the next turn to be able to move over. Because they're going to block it. They're not just going to be like, whatever, he's small, nothing will ever die. So it's going to be kind of tricky to make him work. But if we can find a deck and an archetype where he slips in there, he could be really, really strong. So I'm definitely holding out on my evaluation on this guy. I would say I think he might not make it into a deck, but if he does, he's going to be good. Like there could be a whole deck built around him. All right, the Aloyan Tyrant. Again, we have the series of ambush guys. This is the one that is the most meta-dependent. They have to gain health. And there are very few cards that gain health. It's pretty much just the Wagyu deck right now. And it's good, though. It's good to have kind of a hard counter to archetypes if they become ultra popular. Then people can react by running like an NT removal deck with him, so you get more board presence to try to fight. And he's got a big body, so I don't think he'll be constructed playable at all unless life gain decks become popular again. I don't know right now if the Wagyu decks are going to remain popular. We'll have to see. Ash Maiden is interesting. When a creature you control deals damage, buff it. That's good and not so good, right? Like we've seen cards like this before. You're basically having to have a situation where you're able to move stuff. So, I mean, it goes well with Tempies. You got to be able to move it over so it does damage to the face. The buff is just so small on level 1 that it's almost inconsequential. So you're really playing it for like the level 2 buffs. And I don't know, I mean, by the time you get to that point, the board could have spiraled out of control if you're playing 3 6s and then you're playing like so-so guys that you're hoping to buff. Like I just don't know how this card is going to work into these decks. It's not going to work in a move deck because move decks suck. Like we've seen this repeatedly. Move decks just don't work. The board will get away from you. So I don't know. I don't know the deck she belongs in. It's like a cool card. It's an interesting design space. I just don't think it's a good card. Torrent Valkyrie, again, we're looking at these Torrent cards. I just don't think these Torrent cards are good. I mean, you get to do 3 damage to your opponent and then have that in your deck that you're going to draw, but it is free. So I don't know. The level 1 is better at least at a 5/5. Maybe it trades with something. Usually not. I just don't. I'm not impressed by those. This guy is really cool. He's the focal point of a deck that I've been making, which is a defender-based deck. So what's so cool about him is he works under level. So you don't ever play this guy. What you do is you play your giant Aloyan defender guys, and they ignore them. And they sit there forever. I play it with Steel Scale Dragon. And your Steel Scale takes all their attention because it takes like 2 guys to remove him. And then, you know, you've got your, 2025 Aloyan guy, and then you just go, level 1 Sparkstone Elemental, 20 to your face. It's pretty cool. I'm not sure it's amazing, but he's definitely critical in some sort of defender-based deck because you can put giant bodies out. The problem is you don't do a lot of damage throughout the game. It becomes a situation where you really need to live late in the game and hope to draw the big guys and then use him. But you're usually not removing the little guys either. So they're just kind of hanging around and you can blow stuff up with them. So he's pretty cool. Everflame Aura, we are in the cycle of either ors. When I first read the level 1, I was like, oh my god, this thing is amazing. Levels terribly. So it's basically do a reasonable amount of damage to a target creature an opponent controls or get mobility, which is pretty cool. Like, I don't think you're going to see A lot of other mobility cards that aren't free get played over this, but I'm not really sure how much you're going to see this played. I think you'd see it played in an aggro deck where they really do want to move guys over to do damage to the face. Something like a Cadras deck, or what is his name? His name's not Cadras, whatever his name is. The guy who attacks for each spell you play. It's not a free spell, but it gives him mobility to move over or does damage to their face, depending on what you need. It's a card that if it leveled better, if it was like 7, 10, 12, it'd be amazingly good, because it would be a ton of damage. So, I don't know. It probably sees play, maybe over a Flame Lance. Yeah, and the guy I was looking for was Kaz. I don't know. Flame Lance does damage to face and guy, though, so I don't know. It's a tricky one. It's interesting, though. Steam Sentinel, he's another guy that fits into this defender deck. Like, there's just more and more and more giant body defenders now. We get more every set. So in a defender deck, I think you play him. I think you would end up playing him in draft, which we don't care about right now. But in a regular constructed deck, I don't think you're going to see him, even though he's a big body. Shatterbolt, this is a really cool card. I like this. Oh, so armor decks have become overpowered? No, just run Shatterbolt. I mean, they remove armor and then do 5 damage. So you're probably killing like a gargoyle or something else with that, you know, and any number of these cards that have like 1 health and 20 armor. Just kill them instantly. Flame Jet is pretty cool, but it's pretty bad. 3 or 6, not that impressive. And it's only to a creature, so it's basically worse than a Flame Lance on level 1. The problem is it's only slightly better than a Flame Lance under-leveled, and it's not, because it only does it to a creature. So, I don't know. I think this card is borderline unplayable. Its level 3 is really strong, though. Like, if it did to face or a creature, I think this is a really strong card, because you could kind of use it as a finisher. But I don't know. I'm not that impressed with the card. Blizzard Shaman is one of my favorite cards. I misread him at first. I thought it was you choose the creature to move it to a random space. And with that in mind, I had immediately been like, oh my goodness, I'm going to play Doomwing, I'm going to play Nether Shriek, I'm just going to play Shaman and set it up so when it randomly moves, there's only one empty lane, and boom, it moves over and kills him. And then I did it, and it moved my other guy, and I was like, wait, what? So, I don't know what to say about him. He's really cool. His body is quite big on level 1 and 2 for his reaction if you're able to use his ability. The question is what, you know, like, how often are you looking for an ability where it removes them randomly? Like, this could be good with an aggro deck. Like, he has a big enough body, they block your guy, you really don't care what lane he moves in, he just can't be in that lane, so you play him and move the aggro guy out. It could work. We'll have to see. It seems like one of those cards that won't make it into the constructed scene, but it's pretty cool. Alright, let's move on to Necrium. Alright, Iniog the Carrion Demon. I don't know what to make of this guy. If his health was higher, he would be bonkers. Like, insanely good. But his health is so small that he's going to be easily killed. Especially that level 2. Like, you work so hard. When I say you work hard, if you put him in a deck, I have to kind of assume you're playing regenerate cards. Otherwise, you're just playing to the board of 0/3, hoping he doesn't die before enough other guys die. I assume you're working to have a 12/5 early on player level 1. Now, if you're doing that, you're probably also buffing it with like Lycian Chart or something. If you can have an 18/11 on level 1 that will eventually become a 24/10, you're kind of in business now. But you're putting a lot of work into that. And so the point is you put a lot of work into this to have a guy who only has 5 health and who only has 10 health on level 3. And so I think that's really limiting. I'm not sure he's actually going to be good. Now, like I said, if you can buff him and he has regenerate and he's, you know, under, how do I want to say it? He's being played a level earlier, he could be really good. So there's the potential for some really interesting deck to be created around building him and buffing him early. And then that's where cards like Dendrify will be especially crucial. So we'll have to see sort of how that metagame shakes out. But he's not a card, this is what I like about him, he's not a card where you can just be like, NT, bam, here you go, or UN, bam, right into the Wagyu deck, right into the Tracker deck. Like, he doesn't just slot in all that easily, and I like that about his design. All right, now Immortal Echoes is the card that I'm most worried about. I said I didn't think there's anything overtly broken. Like, Behemoth is great, and he's probably way over the curve, but he's not, doesn't like break the game. This card might. And the reason I say that is you only get one guy for 2 turns. So you're basically giving up your play to get 2 guys back, which is great on level 1. I mean, you're getting 2 level 1s for 1 play. But then on level 2, you're playing a level 2 card that you leveled to only probably get 2 level 1s back. So that's kind of a trade-off. And then level 3, it seems amazing, but it's kind of even a worse trade-off. Like, it's tough to say. Like, you're giving up a level 3 that could have been like a 15-20 guy that finishes the game to get potentially, like a 7-7 or a 6-6 every turn that's easily handled. So I'm not really sure what to say about that. What makes the card potentially broken, though, is that it's one-sided. But what balanced Varnish Pact so much is people could be like, oh, it's a Varnish Pact meta game? Sure, Lotus, Dragon Eggs, all kinds of random crap they could put in their deck to hurt your Varnish Pact. Whereas with Echoes, you completely control your own graveyard. So I've been making decks like with Dire Hound and Conjurer, and basically making creature light decks so that I can use Echoes and just loop over and over really good creatures and only play those creatures. The problem is I have not been able to find like that one deck that really exploits this, and it may not exist. The card may actually be balanced just well enough to where it's not a problem. But this is the one card that I could see somebody like Stoutmeister or Turkus really finding a build here that completely exploits this card and just breaking the meta with it. So we'll have to keep our eye on that. Necroamoeba, I don't know. He's kind of interesting. If you want to load the board full of 1/1 Oozlings, then this is your guy. I mean, it's only going to be 2, right? He's a 4/7, so he probably doesn't die the first time around, but he definitely dies the second time around. Even if he's got Regenerate on him, he's still probably going to die the second time around. It's interesting that his Regenerate doesn't get larger. Like on level 3, Regenerate 3 is somewhat inconsequential. But he does get 5/5 Oozling. So it really depends on how you're building. Like if you need to clog the board, or you need stuff to die for something like Xerox, maybe he's good in that regard. You could do stuff like the Hydra and ping him to get more 1/1s. There's all kinds of things you could do to ping him. But I don't know. Cacklebones is really interesting. Removal on level and a body. Sounds insane. It's kind of like Shriek that you can control. The problem is you give your opponent an extra play. I don't know that I ever want to give my opponent an extra play. I don't care how good the card is. You're trading the known for the completely unknown, which is very dangerous. I mean, there's a reason you only get 2 plays generally. 3 plays, you can do some really insane things. And what makes it even harder is like underlevel, the card is just garbage. You can't play this card underlevel. Like they have a reasonable, like, let's say they have a level 1 Ebon Skull Knight that's kind of a pain. And you're on level 2 and you draw your Cacklebones and you're like, I could take out that Ebon Skull, but if I do, what if they play 3 level 2s and just instantly win? So because of that, I don't really like Cacklebones. I mean, the cool thing with Cacklebones is you can do stuff like Arbiter and try to make it so they don't get their 3rd play. You can play the ambush guys and try to combo with that and try to pull stuff off like that. And that could be really interesting if that's the deck you're building, which is what I like about set 5. It feels like there's far fewer guys that you just drop into every single deck and go to town. But so this guy feels like if you build a deck around him, he could be really cool. But just putting him in a Necrium deck because he's removal, I don't know about that. I don't think he's the removal choice I would want to use. All right, Vigor Leech, another one of these multi-use cards. It's either a debuff or it's a regen. And the regen levels reasonably well, like 3, 6, 9. I mean, there's a lot of guys you put 9 regenerate on a level 3. That card's not going away anytime soon. So I kind of like this card. I'll have to see. I haven't actually put it in a deck yet because I haven't built a deck where I had a guy big enough that it really wanted regenerate on them. But certainly in an Igor, whatever that guy's name is, Iniag the Carrier Demon, that could be a critical card with that deck. Torrent Witch, we're back to the Torrent series. I'm not a fan of the Torrent series. This guy, again, regen. Yeah, if you need regen, then he's good. But not a fan of it. Broodhor is another interesting design. He's not a very good body, but he can buff guys slightly and debuff himself. So it almost feels like this guy should have been like a legendary and like 8/8, right? So he could actually have real impact. I feel like where he is now is a very low impact card. His body's not quite big enough to have a real effect. It's a very small buff that he's giving other guys. I mean, it's a cool card design. I like it. I just don't think it's going to be effective in Constructed. But then again, remember, Constructed is only looking at the most efficient cards, so it's really hard to break into that. Scourge Hydra is interesting. It's a giant body that has to damage something. That's usually fine. Like, there's usually at least one guy on the board that's going to die this turn anyway. You ping it. You can play it with a Poke the Bear deck. Poke the Bear, wake him up, and get a 7/7. So it's one of those things where I feel like it's a reasonable card, like especially in a big dumb animals deck. Again, like almost every card in set 5, I don't feel like you're like every Necrium deck, Scourge Hydra. He's good, but he's not that good. Yeah, again, you can use him with Thundersoar. You can use him with Wake the Bear. There's just a lot of combos you can use him with, which I like. I think he'll have a place in Constructed. I just don't think it'll be in every Necrium deck. Rot Wanderer, we got a zombie. Ooh. I actually really like this guy. I think he's bad, but I like the idea of having a body that can come in and destroy something with 3 or less attack. So you've got Zerace Will already that does something similar to this in the zombie deck. So you're already like going out of your way to try to reduce things. But then you have to hit Zerace Will, and then you don't hit it, or you do hit it, and you don't have a zombie, and it's really frustrating. Well, now you can run this and Zerace Will and have a whole bunch of synergy around you reducing their guys. So I'm actually not sure he'll even make it into a zombie deck. His body's so small, he might not be efficient enough, but I like the idea that that redundancy is available to you in that deck. And it especially works well if, you know, these decks start becoming really popular that have little guys, you know, like, or guys with low attack, like Seers, like Smolder Scale Dragons, things like this. You know, you can use them quite a bit. Let's see, Bitterfrost Totem. Bitterfrost Totem, I kind of like it. I mean, 4/4 is not inconsequential on level 1. If it's underleveled to 6/6, that's pretty good. You level it as an 8/8. That's a pretty serious reduction in the right deck. I could see this seeing play. It would have been stronger and even more interesting if it was like an Epidemic. So it was like a 1/1 on level and a 3/3 under level. That would be kind of cool. And maybe we'll see that in the future as well. But I could see maybe that sees play. I really like this guy a lot, Abysmal Maw. He's an abomination, so it's a bit restricted that you actually have to have abominations on the field. But I was playing this with my Immortal Echoes deck, and I was going like Ebon Hound, and him, and usually having an Ebon Hound or one of these guys on the board, and then just looping them over and over from the graveyard to do debuffs. You know, 4 from the Ebon Hound, 3 from this guy. His body, if his body was bigger, he'd be busted. So he's very well balanced, and because he's well balanced, he might be too fair to actually make it into the constructed metagame, which I know is a funny thing to say. But the constructed metagame really is about finding the most unfair cards you can find and then exploit them. And he might be too fair, but he's a cool card. He'll certainly be played in an A-bomb deck, and I like him. I think he's kind of cool. All right. And we'll move to Aloyan finally. Again, a lot of fair cards. Steel Eye Seer. I don't know what to think about him. I love that you use him under level. He's great for that. The problem is he's very similar to Oracle, and Oracle's never really played. And so it's the question is like, why wasn't Oracle played? And I think the reason is it's really hard to justify playing a 0/8 and using that as one of your turns. You really have to be able to have a way to survive on board playing 0/8s to the board, especially if you're saying like, I'm going to play him under leveled to really get full use out of him. So you're playing him as a 0/8 on level 2. Can you get away with that? I don't know. I've tried some decks with him. They haven't really worked out so far. But what I do like is that it gives you more opportunity to be able to level more cards in a leveling deck if that's the way you want to go. And it gives you a lot of control. So I like that quite a bit. So we have some people saying that Maw is only when played from hand. Enters play from your hand. Yep, I guess that's true. Not sure what I was talking about then. Maybe it was I was playing the Dire Hound from the graveyard and playing him from hand. I don't know. Alright, Lucid Echoes. At the end of your turn and the next turn, draw a card. So, this is tough. It's like Energy Surge that never becomes free. And that would be impossible to play. But, instead of one turn, it stretches over 2 turns. So you're activating guys like the Metamind Gnome guys, whatever their names are. You're activating them over multiple turns. And so, if your deck needs this, if your deck needs to draw more cards over multiple turns, this could be a viable way to go. I'd be hesitant to play it because it's a full turn. Or, I mean, it's a full action. It's half your turn just to get more cards. You're really having to use those more cards if you're going to do it. I don't understand this card. Giving one creature I control +3 attack. That's a 3/3. He seems awful. He seems just terrible. So I don't really understand him. Like, you look at the Dire Hound, 4/4, -4/-4. Like, that's an overload card. The only thing I can think of is because it's a robot, they feel like this balances the fact that it can probably be a free play. It's a way to whittle your deck down a little bit with free plays, like off of a Tinker or things like that. I don't know though. He seems. Oh, okay. It's each other creature actually. I still don't think that's enough at +3 for each other creature. Each other creature makes him a little more viable. But the problem is every time you're playing an overload card, it's one less card that's leveled in your deck. And with Dire Hound, we were able to overlook that because he's so ridiculously overpowered. So maybe this guy's okay if you have a full board. Like, you run 1 or 2 of them, assuming you're never going to play him. Let's get a full board. I don't know. I think he's pretty terrible, actually. I want to see the Seer again, level 3. Okay, so level 3 is pretty cool. You get to actually use its ability twice. I didn't know it said that because I've never gotten to a level 3 Seer. It feels like if you're playing a Seer 3 times, you're dead. The way I would think you would want to play him is to try to level 2 the Seer with like an AT leveling deck, but I don't know. I personally haven't found a way to work Seer in very well. Sentry. This is probably the easiest Sentry to get out. If if a creature an opponent controls enters the field in their turn and it didn't enter from their hand, put it out. So any of these decks that are spawning more guys, that are bringing like Immortal Echoes, bringing back from the graveyard. The problem is it's really small on level 1. A 3/9 is. I mean, the cool thing is it clogs up space for a while, but it's not going to be doing a lot of killing. So it's interesting. I have him in my deck. He's really annoying when you play like Immortal Echoes and you're going, okay, I know I'm just going to get level 1s, but it's worth it. I'm leveling my Immortal Echoes. And you get your level 1 and they get a Sentry. And you're like, oh, God, that trade was not worth it at all. I gave up a whole action and they got an extra guy on top of me losing an action. It can be pretty devastating, actually. Airmine Squadron. I mean, this is pretty cool. If you're building a Metamind deck, you can go get the Metamind. Like, just imagine back in the day when people were running Drix decks, if they had a card that would go let them get Drix. Like, that's kind of crazy. The problem is it's a random Metamind. And so, like, I could see a weird deck where it's like you run less Drix, like 1 to 2 Drixes, and you level them whenever you see them. And then you're using Arrowmine Squadron to continually fish them out because it doesn't even say on level. So you'd have to play like, the problem is you would end up with a lot of crap. Like you'd have to really not play that many metamines or risk getting underleveled bad metamines. So I really feel like this is probably too heavy of an RNG card to be all that useful, which is probably good. Like if you could go in and pick the metamine, it'd be kind of broken. And his body's not good enough to actually just play. He's far too fair of a card body-wise. Here we go, another Acolyte. This Acolyte for Aloyan has a pretty good body. Like Aloyan doesn't have a lot of big attack guys that aren't defenders that can just drop in and be used as underdrops to trade. The problem is if you're using it as an underdrop, then you're not getting your Power Torrent. The Power Torrent is pretty lame. Target creature gets 3 attack. I mean, that's not that great. I'd say he's pretty darn unplayable. Countermeasure. I mean, this is going along with the Aloyan thing of like only buffing attack, which is just worse than what other factions get. Like just buffing attack is usually not that relevant. You need their health to be buffed as well. So I think this card's probably garbage, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Batterbot is interesting. He's a dinosaur, and he's pretty big, 5'8". If he has a little bit of armor, he gets really big really fast. I don't know. Is there an AU robots deck that has him and has like I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to work him in. The problem is there's already a ton of good robots. So you're looking at him, but and most of the robot decks aren't giving lots of armor in the past. But if we find a deck that really is adamant and has a lot of good cards giving armor, like maybe I don't even remember the name of it, the one that gives him armor and mobility, could be pretty good. It'd be really hard to kill him if you get to both buff his attack and essentially his defense with an armor card instead of just buffing his defense. That's pretty darn powerful. So his body is big enough, I feel like, where he could have a real impact if we can find that archetype. I don't think you can just pop him into decks, though. I don't think he's strong enough. And that's what I like about set 5. There's not a lot of just tossing guys into decks. Target creature's armor 2, and if it's underlevel, armor 3. Like, that's really blah. Feels like there's a lot of cards that do stuff better than that. I can't imagine people are playing that card. This guy's cool. He's got level 1 is kind of blah, but level 2 and 3 is not a bad body, and it levels. So I have a deck with him and Killian, where just leave the center lane open. You get bodies and level guys. So it's a way to play like on level 1 to not completely give up the board, to be leveling like dragons and energy surges to make sure you see more cards and all this kind of stuff. I've been trying. It hasn't worked at all, but it's pretty cool. The problem, we're going back to the Batterbot, is that Sentinel doesn't work that great because it's temporary. Like, my point is that I think in order for him to be amazing, you want to be able to give him permanent armor. Giving him, what it'll do is it'll take Sentinel, which is already a massive blowout the turn you play it, and make it even bigger blowout. I'm just not sure that that's enough of a reason to put a card into a deck that it takes a blowout card and makes it a bigger blowout card. That's my point. It may already be a big enough body where it works well. But if you get Sentinel blowouts on people, you're crushing them anyway, even if it's with Gargoyles and Sentinels and other robots. So that's the question, is do you need him on top of that? And the answer may be yes, he may be good enough. Metamind Archivist. This guy kind of scares me. Like, we're getting all these ways to make the Gnome deck and the Metamind decks more reliable. I'm not sure we want that. Like, just think about a metagame where they're always able to turn on their Acolyte Gnome guys. That doesn't sound fun. That sounds kind of horrible. So like with Gox and him, maybe you play the Metamind that goes in the middle and draws. You play the Overseer. You should be able to get cards every turn. And then if you throw Lucid Echoes on top of that, I mean, you're getting extra cards every turn. You're seeing most of your deck now. You're going to be able to play the Acolytes every level. I don't know if that's a good thing. I've seen a bunch of people playing that deck right now. It doesn't seem to be perfectly well tuned, so we'll have to see. But all I know is when that was the metagame, everyone was pissed. So I'm not sure we want to go back to that metagame. That's probably the card that when I saw the release I was the most worried about, as far as like not necessarily a broken card, but creating a negative play experience for people. I don't think people want to go back to that metagame. And the last card is another really cool design card that's probably too fair to actually see play. While it's on the field, you have armor 5, so you're not going to be taking very much damage. Problem is the body's really small on level 1. Level 2, it's fine. Level 3, it's not that impressive. I just don't see this. I just don't think this card will see play. I don't think preserving a little bit of damage every now and then is enough to warrant playing a card that is essentially not a great card. It's too fair of a card. All right, well that is set 5 and my review of it. Essentially, the bottom line is I feel like this set is really well designed in that we have all these new mechanics that are interesting. We don't have very many cards that just splash into existing archetypes. Most of the cards are going to be cards you have to work for. You're going to have to build a new archetype. You're going to have to build around this card. It can have a really powerful effect, but you don't just drop it in every deck. I really like that about the set. And hopefully we will come out of set 5 with a really robust, interesting metagame with the nerfs to other cards and with these new cards. So thank you for stopping by, and stay tuned to Tiny Grimes Games for other Solforge related materials.